Welcome back to Top 10 Scary Urban Legends. Let's waste no time and let me introduce you guys to the top 10 scary messages shown on TV broadcasts. I'm your host Andrew and let's get right onto this list. Number 10, the Max Headroom Incident. In 1987, the television signals of two stations in Chicago, Illinois were hijacked, sending a pirate broadcast of an identified person wearing a Max Headroom mask and costume to thousands of home viewers. This is what it looked like. The first incident happened during a sports segment on WGN TV's 9 p.m. newscast, where the pirate broadcast showed a person wearing a mask swaying erratically in front of a swiveling metal panel. The only sound was a loud buzz, and the interruption lasted for almost 17 seconds before WGN engineers regained control of their broadcast tower. The second incident occurred about 2 hours later during a broadcast of the Doctor Who serial on PBS member station WTTW. This time, the masked figure could be heard making references to various topics such as New Coke, the animated TV series Clutch Cargo, and other unrelated things. The video ended with the figure's butt being hit by a woman with a fly swatter while yelling, "They're coming to get me," and the woman responding, "Bend over," before the transmission ended and normal programming resumed. A criminal investigation conducted by the Federal Communications Commission in the immediate aftermath of the intrusion could not find the person responsible, and the culprits have yet to be identified despite many unofficial inquiries and much speculation over the ensuing decades. Number 9, the Southern Television Broadcast Interruption. On November 26, 1977, a strange event took place in southern England. The audio of a broadcast by the Southern Television station was interrupted by an unknown voice delivering an unusual message going a little something like this.
For many years, you have seen us as lights and
The speaker identified themselves as Vrilon, a representative of the Ashtar Galactic Command, and he asked humanity to abandon its weapons so it could participate in a future awakening, and also to achieve a higher state of evolution. The message lasted for almost 6 minutes and caused a lot of confusion and concern among all the viewers who were watching at the time. The event was widely reported in British and newspapers alike, although the details of the story somewhat contradict one another, including differing accounts of the name used by the speaker and the wording of their message. Later investigations revealed that the signal intrusion was caused by the Hangington transmitter accidentally rebroadcasting a signal from a small unauthorized transmitter nearby instead of the intended source at the Roe Ridge transmitting station. This mistake led to the interruption of the television broadcast and the transmission of this mysterious message. But what is really still unknown is the person or group behind the signal intrusion. What was their message and what did they hope to achieve? Although some have speculated that the incident may have been a hoax or a prank, others believe that it may have been the work of an extraterrestrial being attempting to make contact with humanity. But in the end, we will never know. Number 8, the zombie alert on the Steve Wilkos show. In 2013, a strange and eerie message warning of a zombie apocalypse was broadcast on several TV stations in Montana and Michigan, as well as on a morning show on a radio station in Wisconsin. The message was part of a local area emergency system alert, which was designed to be used for important announcements in emergency situations only.
that the bodies of the dead are rising from their graves and attacking the living.
During the incident, viewers were warned of the dangers of dead bodies rising from their graves and were advised to, quote, find shelter, buy necessary survival items, and stay tuned to local media for emergency updates. However, the broadcast turned out to be a hoax and the warnings were false. The first of these hijackings took place on KRTV Channel 2 and 3 during an airing of the Steve Wilkos show and also during one of their commercial breaks. The strange incident was caused by a hacker who had gained access to the security of the EAS equipment. It was later revealed that the hacker was able to do this by exploiting a back door in the system that allowed them to bypass security measures. This was made possible by poor protection from station equipment, as they had neglected to change their default logging information. The following day, the hacker was caught, and while the incident turned out to be a harmless prank, it also raised questions about the potential vulnerability of these emergency alert systems and how easy it would be to cause widespread panic with just one false alarm. At our number 7 spot, we have the Captain Midnight broadcast. In the 1980s, HBO was a highly highly sought after premium cable channel that could be accessed for free by anyone with a satellite dish installed on their roof. As a result, many people would go to John McDougal's satellite dish business in Florida to get their fix of HBO. However, in 1986, HBO decided to start scrambling their satellite signal, which would require viewers to pay $12.95 a month to access their content. This move threatened to bankrupt McDougal's business, which relied heavily on customers who wanted free access to HBO. McDougal, who had access to a 30-foot industrial-grade satellite in front of his store, decided to take matters into his own hands. He gave himself the nickname Captain Midnight and used his satellite to interrupt the HBO signal for 4 minutes, during which he displayed a message that read, "Good evening HBO from Captain Midnight, $12.95 a month, no way." The hack caused a massive uproar and put HBO in a precarious position. The company was criticized for having a vulnerable satellite signal, and the Hughes Corporation even threatened to shut down the network if they could not find the person responsible for the hack. They were concerned that someone had gained control over their entire system, and the media labeled Captain Midnight as a domestic terrorist, and the FCC threatened to fine him $100,000 if he did not appear in court. Eventually, the FBI was able to track McDougal and arrest him. However, the judge presiding over the case reduced his sentence to a $5,000 fine. Years later, McDougal said he did not regret the hack because he still believed that HBO was overcharging its customers. Number 6, the Area 51 caller.
Hello, Art.
Yes.
Hi. I don't have a whole lot of time.
In the early hours of 1997, Art Bell hosted a radio show called Coast to Coast AM that specialized in discussing paranormal and extraterrestrial phenomena. Little did he know that one of his broadcasts that night would go down in history as one of the most mysterious and intriguing events in the world of conspiracy theories. A little around 1 a.m., a phone call was received from a former alleged Area 51 employee. The caller sounded frantic and scared, as if he was in the midst of a life-threatening situation. He claimed that the US government was covering up the existence of extra-dimensional beings that had infiltrated NASA and Area 51. And he also said that they were planning to create disasters in major cities in order to gain control over the human population. As the conversation continued, the man's distress grew, and about 3 minutes in, the radio transmission suddenly broke up, and there was a total silence for several seconds. When Art Bell returned to the air, he claimed that their equipment had suffered a massive heart attack and that they had to switch to a backup system. Listeners were left stunned, wondering whether the call was a talented actor or whether there was some truth to his claims. As the years passed, the mystery only deepened. No one has ever come forward to claim responsibility for the call, leaving many to wonder if the government had silenced the caller or if he was still on the run, hiding from the extra-dimensional beings he was talking about. The incident sparked a wave of conspiracy theories, with many people believing that the government was hiding the truth about extraterrestrial life and that there was a secret organization dedicated to covering up the evidence of their existence. And this is the popular belief still held today. So could this story be true and the originator of everything that was to come? Or are aliens still hiding from us? Let me know in the comments. In the hump of our list, we have the Playboy channel religious message. In 1987, a broadcast of the movie Three Daughters on the Playboy channel was interrupted by a religious message that read, quote, "Thus saith the Lord thy God, remember the Sabbath day and keep it holy. Repent, the kingdom of heaven is at hand." The interruption was caused by an individual named Thomas Haney, who is an employee of the Christian Broadcasting Network. Haney was later convicted of satellite piracy and was the first person to be convicted under a new federal law which made satellite hacking a felony. The jamming signal left behind a subtle technical clues that were captured on a VHS recording made at Playboy's channel uplink at the time of the event. After investigators were confident that they identified the brand of the transmitter and character generator from the video, they concluded that CBN was the culprit. However, CBN maintained the FCC's case was entirely circumstantial since there was no witnesses and the signal could not be traced to a point of origin. So during the trial, government witnesses claimed that the CBN station was capable of interfering with satellite transmissions. Haney was initially deadlocked, but the jury eventually sided with the prosecution and convicted him on 2 of 6 accounts. And as a result, Haney received 3 years of probation, a $1,000 fine, and 150 years of community service. All the way at a number 4 spot, we have the Mayday Interruption. On a quiet night in January 2007, Channel 7, an Australian broadcast station, was airing an episode of the Canadian documentary Mayday Head-on Collision. The show was a typical docudrama about air travel disasters, but something bizarre happened that would make it a truly unforgettable experience for those who watched it that day. Suddenly, the audio of the show was replaced with the looping track of a man's voice crying out, "Jesus Christ, help us all, Lord." The eerie sound lasted for 5 disturbing minutes and left viewers stunned and perplexed. It was a confusing and unsettling experience to say the least. But what was the source of the mysterious sound? The audio remains a mystery to this day, and the channel spokesperson offered an explanation that it was just a technical glitch due to an audio problem and that the line was actually part of the documentary. However, this explanation didn't fully satisfy those who heard the strange sound and experienced the sudden disruption of the show. One of the viewers who was watching that night said that the sound was very odd and a bit creepy, and they thought it was some kind of subliminal message or that someone had just hacked into the broadcast. They even tried calling the station to inquire about the incident, but no one picked up. The weird thing is about all this is that no one really looked into this incident or even bothered to find out what really happened. It was just kind of swept under the rug and people just went on with their lives. But for those who had experienced it, it was an unforgettable moment that left them questioning the strange and unexplainable things that happen in the TV world. Number 3, War of the Worlds.
Ladies and gentlemen, am I on? Ladies and gentlemen, here I am, back of a stone wall that adjoins Mr. Wilmer's garden. From here, I get a sweep of the whole scene. I'll give you every detail as long as I can talk and as long as I can see.
On the night before Halloween in 1938, a radio broadcast of the War of the Worlds caused a mass hysteria across the United States. The 1-hour radio play was aired by the Columbia broadcasting station CBS and was written by the Orson Welles, who would later become the famous director of Citizen Kane. Based on the novel by H.G. Wells, the drama was presented in a news bulletin format and played out like a typical radio broadcast. The play starts with music, which is then interrupted by a news report of explosions on the surface of Mars. The broadcast then cuts back to music, only to be interrupted again with reports of a UFO landing in Grover's Mill, New Jersey. The program continued to switch back and forth from music to news reports, which caused many listeners who had missed the initial introduction to believe that it was actually real. According to reports, hundreds of people called the police and there were traffic jams of people trying to evacuate the East Coast. However, according to an investigation by Snopes, many of the stories in the media were exaggerated and very few people who were listening to the show actually believed it was real. Nonetheless, the War of the Worlds is still remembered as one of the greatest radio pranks of all time. It highlighted the power of media to create panic and fear, and it showcased the possibilities of radio as a medium for entertainment and storytelling. Number 2, the Kaluga Incident. In 1966, tensions between the Soviet Union and the United States were at an all-time high as the two superpowers engaged in a fierce Cold War. In Kaluga, a small town located 100 miles from Moscow, which is near Moscow, local teenagers often interrupted radio transmissions with odd humor or anti-government commentary. Unfortunately, there is no recordings of this, so I'm just gonna have to explain it. Now, despite these disruptions on TV, authorities tended to brush them off as harmless pranks. However, one day, an unnamed 18-year-old took things way too far. He interrupted a jazz music broadcast to falsely report that the United States had sent nuclear warheads to the USSR and that residents needed to take shelter immediately. This prank caused a very real panic in the town as people scrambled to actually take cover. Later, newspaper reports indicate that the teenager was caught and had his equipment confiscated. However, it's unknown if he received any additional punishment from the KGB for his dangerous and potentially deadly hoax. However, this incident highlights the dangers of allowing individuals to exploit security vulnerabilities in broadcast equipment. And this is terrifying because this teenager was able to spread false information and potentially starting a war between two of the biggest superpowers. All the way at a number 1 spot with the Wyoming Incident.
Wyoming today, making him the first to visit in preparation for the 2008 general election. Republican President Jackson.
The Wyoming Incident, also known as the Wyoming hijacking, is a lesser known case of television broadcast hijacking and hacking. The hacker aired their own video on a television broadcast, which contained numerous clips of disembodied human heads showing various emotions and poses. The video was often interrupted by a special presentation announcement, and the camera position changed every 10 to 15 seconds. Although the video is mostly locally well known, it gained widespread attention due to its effects on the few residents who watched it for an extended period of time. The viewers reported vomiting, hallucinations, headaches, and all sorts of other afflictions. Some believed it was paranormal, but specialists have determined that the cause of these effects were frequencies played regularly throughout the broadcast. In this clip, the frequency being played is somewhere between 17 and 19 hertz. This range of frequency, when played for long periods of time, caused the eyes to vibrate ever so slightly, sometimes inducing visual hallucinations. This video is significant in that it was one of the most recent television hijackings, with such actions being rare even in the 1980s, as demonstrated by the infamous Chicago Max Headroom Incident. Today, they're even rarer, and the hacker behind the Wyoming Incident has yet been caught. The Wyoming Incident is possibly the scariest television hacking of all time, possibly worse than the Max Headroom Incident, knowing that it was actually causing people to vomit, hallucinate, and all sorts of other things. Well, these are the top 10 scary messages shown on TV broadcasts. What do you guys think about this list? Leave a comment down below with your thoughts, and let me know some future suggestions for some future videos I might do, because we never know. I'm your host Andrew, and I hope you guys have a scary day.